A discussion forum on the state of human rights in the Maldives was held at the BMICH yesterday. The forum was organized by South Asians for Human Rights and Amnesty International.
Speaking at the forum via Skype, former South Asia researcher for Amnesty International Abbas Faiz spoke on Chinese influence in the Maldives and in the region.
When we talk about, China within the Maldives, it becomes very complicated. And I think the Maldivian businessmen from all sides of the political life, they have to understand that China in the long run is not going to be good for democracy. The Maldives is under heavy debts from China. And we know that some of these debts are actually being, kind of siphoned into whatever, corrupt systems that exist. And the difficulty is that unless really politicians and business people of all sides understand the magnitude and the significance of this problem, is not going to be solved, because then we are going to be left with a situation like Sri Lanka, with a situation like Myanmar, when, in Sri Lanka, immediately after the change of government, the rhetoric was that they will be moving away from China. But then they realized that the Chinese debts had to be repaid. And that is going to be difficult. So now China is coming back to Sri Lanka. China is going back to Myanmar. And when China goes to a country, we know that the level of repression in that country actually increases, because the leaders of all these countries, they want to model themselves on the big model that exists in China, President for life. Xi Jinping in China has actually turned himself into President for life. Yamin Abdul Gayoom in the Maldives is planning to do that. Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh is planning to do that. If they stand in front of the Chinese, kind of embassies and say, look, we don't want you to sponsor dictatorship in our country, I think there will be a change. And that change, I can actually believe that is likely to happen if that kind of action is taken.
The event was attended by lawyers and activists, including the former commissioner of the Human Rights Commission of the Maldives, Ahmad Tolal, who is currently the senior program coordinator for Transparency International Maldives, and former chairman of the Maldivian Elections Commission, Fuad Tawfiq.
In writing, we have a very wonderful constitution, penal code and laws. After 5 years, some amendments have been brought during this government's time, and it has not only modified but jumbled the constitution. A lot of unconstitutional laws have been passed by the parliament. So anything that comes to the president has to be passed.
I don't think any one of us here do not have an understanding of the kind of influence the Parliament wields on independent institutions in the country. And I don't think at the moment we can actually refer to them as independent institutions, primarily because they have been handpicked to do the bidding of the government. So they're not really independent institutions, but an extension of the work of the government.